In this video, I wanted to talk about something a little bit different, and it's this idea of voting with your dollar, and specifically using our kind of everyday or weekly trip to the grocery store as an opportunity to make a difference. And this isn't normally like the type of thing I really talk about too much. I don't really talk about anything to do with like finances too much, and I also don't really talk about kind of like those day-to-day ways to make a difference. But I do talk about this a little bit in my book, The Change Maker in You, which you can download as an ebook for free at humanitarianchangemakers.net. I will leave it linked down below. But in part 3, where we talk about campaigning for change and kind of driving that more formal systemic change, I talk about the differences between voting politically in the democratic sense and then voting with your dollar as a consumer. And I obviously recognize that, you know, this idea of like voting with your dollar and, you know, conscious consumerism and all of these things are definitely not the solution to any social problem, but I am all for turning those things that we're already going to do into an opportunity to do good. The first tip I have, which is less about doing good and just more about grocery shopping in general, a little piece of unsolicited advice. This is honestly something that has really changed my life. For some reason, grocery shopping just always stressed me out, and I don't know what it is. I honestly think like in the beginning, it was just this realization that I would go to the supermarket and I'd be shopping for me and maybe like a boyfriend at the time. And I would be spending like $150, $200 on groceries. And it was like this realization that like, holy shit, I have to spend this amount like regularly for the rest of my life. Like I can't just not eat. This is something that I'm going to be doing all the time. And like every time I had to go and pay for my groceries at usually the self-serve checkouts, it would just like, I would be filled with dread. And then I would kind of feel guilty and I'd be like, oh, you know, maybe I shouldn't have bought the fancy vegan sausages that I like, or, you know, maybe I shouldn't be buying more expensive things, or, you know, I should be opting for, don't you bark at the rubbish man, he's our friend. I was like, maybe I should be, you know, spending less or whatever. And very slowly I've been able to kind of move past that. Something that did help me kind of move past that was when I got into this kind of mindset of values-based spending. And I made this really conscious decision to not let myself get too stressed out, because I really value my health. I really value eating good vegan food. I really value cooking my own meals at home. I don't really like eating out. And I just realized that this is something that's important to me. You know, I don't really spend money on getting my nails done. Back then I wasn't getting my hair done or anything like that. So I was like, I'm not spending stuff on things that I don't value, but food is really important to me. And that made me feel a little bit less guilty at the checkout. Something that's helped me even more is now I basically have a budget and I allocate the same amount of money to buying groceries every week. So I use my money from dancing, and I have this little cash binder that I got. This has been great for me. I love it. I get paid in cash when I'm dancing. So I don't know how helpful it would be for somebody who maybe doesn't get paid in cash, but maybe if you prefer to take money out of the bank and just have it like set aside for savings purposes, I definitely recommend the cash binder system. I'll link this one that I got from Amazon down below if you're Australian. And yeah, what I do is I allocate the same amount of money each week to groceries. So $150 is the magic number that I've settled on. It's pretty much a comfortable number for me to buy food for myself and extra food to feed my partner when he stays over. And I can comfortably buy the foods I like. I can buy my fancy vegan cookies. I can buy the stuff that I like, but it also is a number that isn't so large that I can just frivolously chuck anything that I see into the trolley. Like, I am still kind of being very conscious when I do my shopping. So just having that kind of number and getting used to that was really helpful, because now when I'm at the checkout, I don't stress. I don't think, oh, I should have saved more money, I could have this, that. As long as I'm, you know, spending $150 or less, then I'm happy. I'm like, you know what, this is the money that I've put aside for this is what that money is for. I am doing something, spending money that aligns with my values, and I've just found that really helpful. So I don't know if that will apply to many people watching this, but I know that when we are in like a cost of living crisis or a recession, or when people are struggling financially, groceries tends to be one of the first things that people try to reduce their costs of, because it is a variable expense. So unlike your rent, unlike your mortgage, unlike a lot of your monthly bills, they're kind of like fixed expenses, whereas your groceries are variable. You can reduce it, you can increase it, and so that tends to be one of the places people try to save money. So if you are trying to save money at the supermarket and you still want to be able to maybe follow some of these tips that I'm going to mention, then a really good thing I recommend is just having that budget, having that magic number that you kind of aim to spend, and not letting yourself feel guilty about spending groceries, as long as you're not going over that number. So that is my first kind of tip. My second tip is kind of adding on to that, is to put giving into your grocery budget. So if you can afford it, having like $5 every grocery shop that you allocate to buying something that you're going to give or donating. I know at a lot of supermarkets you can donate at the checkout to their charity partners, but just having that in your budget, if you can afford it, is a great thing to do. So typically what I will do is I try and like add approximately how much I'm spending as I go, and if I have any extra money left over, I will typically buy a couple of extra things and just donate those. So an example is recently at the Woolworths that I go to regularly, they had one of the like donation bin things for Share the Dignity, which is a charity that donates period products to people in need. So what I was able to do was I was able to just chuck in a couple of boxes of tampons and pads, and, you know, they weren't fancy. I went for the brand that happened to be on sale that week, and, you know, I don't really use tampons or pads, but I was happy to buy those and then donate them on my way out of the supermarket. I've seen donation things for other charities. So, you know, if you want to grab some non-perishable things, you know, some 2-minute noodles, some like whatever, cans of food, whatever it might be, just grabbing those, even if they're super cheap, and then you can just pop them into a donation bin. That is a really good way to just start doing good when you do your grocery shopping. That's something I really like to do. And it also doesn't put too much pressure on you. You know, if you end up spending your whole grocery budget one week, then, you know, there's no pressure for you to feel bad. It's just whenever you have that little bit of extra money from the money that you've allocated to your groceries that you haven't spent, you can think, great, I can pay this forward to somebody else in need. If you are somebody who shops at one of the 2 major supermarkets here in Australia, i.e. Coles and Woolies, then something that I wish I had done like a decade ago is sign up for their rewards programs. I have only done this recently and I really wish I had done it earlier. So if you are somebody who shops at Coles, that would be the Flybuys reward program. If you are somebody who shops at Woolies, that is the Everyday Rewards program. Both of these are great, and the reason that I am mentioning these as kind of ways to do good is because not only do they save you money if you, depending on what you do. So like I've got the Everyday Rewards, the extra thing, which is basically $7 a month, but you get double the reward points and you get 10% off one shop every month. And if I'm spending $150 on groceries every week, if I get 10% off one of those, 10% of that is $15 off. $15 off is already covering the cost that I'm paying for this. So to me, it's worth it. And you have a couple of options with what you can do with your rewards points. So for example, you can get like vouchers to spend on fuel or vouchers to spend in store. So maybe if you don't have the budget to set some money aside to buy some things that you're going to donate to particular charities, like I mentioned in the previous tip. What you could do is you could save up your Flybuys dollars or your everyday rewards points, and you could actually use the vouchers that you get from those to then purchase things that you can donate. The other thing that you can do with your rewards points, and I don't know if you can do it with Flybuys, but I know you can do it with the everyday rewards points, is you can actually donate the rewards points to one of Woolworth's charities. So you can just, you don't need to sign up for like the extra bonuses or anything like that. You just get the everyday rewards card. It's free to join. You just scan it every time you do your grocery shopping. Eventually your points add up, and then you can choose to actually donate those rewards points to one of the many charities that they partner with. So that is another way for you to do good while you're doing your grocery shopping, and it literally doesn't cost you anything other than what you're already spending on groceries. My next tip is about what we're actually buying. So moving away from the spending money side and looking at what we're actually buying, and probably my favorite tip is to start purchasing products where the brand of the product is actually doing good. So 2 examples that I love to give that I think most people are familiar with, at least here in Australia, would be Who Gives a Crap for toilet paper. If you're going to buy toilet paper, which I'm assuming most people are, then you might as well buy Who Gives a Crap. It pretty much costs the same or cheaper than most of the toilet paper. I had a look at like the prices, and they they calculate it like per 100 squares of the toilet paper. So I think in the whole toilet paper section at Woolworths, I saw that there was only 1 or 2 things of toilet paper where it ended up being cheaper per 100 squares, and it was cheaper by like a cent or something. So definitely good value, but also the company itself, they invest in development projects around the world that are working in the sanitation and toilet space. So, you can see on the box that 50% of their profits are donated, and they are a certified B Corp. That is probably the best certification to look for, in my opinion, when you are choosing what to buy at the supermarket. So obviously, as a vegan, I love to see things being vegan certified. I love to see things that are certified organic, all of that stuff. But in terms of the actual practices of the business, I think that being a certified B Corp is by far the most comprehensive and transparent assessment process that a company can go through. And it's about so much more than just being able to, purchase an accreditation. I really like the B Corp certification scheme, and so I always look for companies that are certified B Corps. Another example is Thankyou. I love just like the brand. So Thankyou, they started doing bottled water. They've expanded to a whole bunch of different things, but as a company, they are so transparent and so honest. They used to have this thing, I'm not sure if they still do it, but on the bottles of water, you could track the actual bottle that you'd purchased to see where the money from that bottle, what actual community development programs it had been funding. But they have also just been really responsible and accountable in the sense that as a company, they've recognized that a lot of the charity funding models and just the development space in general is, often a little bit exploitative. They sometimes end up doing a little bit more harm than good. And as a company, they recognize this, and they've worked really hard and are continuing to work hard to really ensure that they are living up to their mission. They also have a book, I think it's called Chapter 1, and if you're somebody who, like me, works in the social change space or the not-for-profit space or, anything like that, incredible book. It is the most honest account of what it's like to try and grow a for-purpose business here in Australia. And it's just a really great book. So I also recommend the book. But yeah, side note, that is a really great way to just incorporate doing good into your grocery shopping. If you're already buying toilet paper, if you're already buying you know, soaps, shampoos, hand washes, cleaning products, whatever it might be, you might as well fund a product where the brand is actually supporting projects that are doing good. The next tip I have, and this is kind of like my final tip, would just be to purchase products that align with your values, your ethics, or the future that you want to create. So, for example, there are lots of cleaning products available, and, you know, just by choosing the brand that maybe is the most sustainable, obviously beware of like greenwashing, but trying to make these kind of conscious choices is telling the supermarkets that you want more of that. It's telling those brands and the companies that you want more of that kind of stuff. And even though the act of buying those things isn't directly contributing to, say, an impact initiative, like when you purchase these sorts of products, you are at least, as a tiny little data set, telling these companies what you want to see. So a lot of the time, I think there is a lot of rhetoric around voting with your dollar as being this thing where you're just purchasing products that align with your values. But I think there is so much more we can do to have an impact when we are at the supermarket. And that is why I kind of left that as kind of like the final tip that I have. So I hope somebody watching this found this valuable. I hope you learned something. I hope you feel a little bit inspired to maybe turn your grocery shopping experience into an opportunity to do good. And if nothing else, I hope maybe my tips at the beginning of the video just helped you feel a little bit less anxiety when it comes to grocery shopping, particularly in this cost of living crisis that we currently find ourselves in.